Okay, so we're on the part 2 of our lesson on collecting like terms, and we learnt last lesson that we have expressions are like sentences, where the words that make up the sentence are the terms. We circled our terms and we remembered to circle the sign, so the positive or negative, that comes before the term. We also looked at individual terms, and we learned that terms are made up of variables, the letter, the coefficient, which is the number before it, and a power or the index. And then we looked at like terms. So we learned that like terms have the same variable raised to the same power. Okay. Now this lesson we're going to be using like terms a lot. So this key concept you should copy into your book. And the key concept is that like terms can be collected into one single term. Unlike terms cannot. They can only be rearranged. So copy these two examples down. So I've got two expressions here, p plus 2p and p plus 2q. Now you will notice, or you should notice, that p, positive p and positive 2p are like terms because they have the same variable to the same power, 1. Now p and positive p and positive 2q in this expression are unlike terms because there's a different variable, p and q, and we must have the same variable to the same power. Now like terms, as we just learned in this concept here, can be collected to one single term. So p, positive p and positive 2p can be collected to give 3p. And that's identical to that, so I'm using the identity symbol. Now, unlike terms cannot be collected because they have different variables, okay, and raised to a different power. They can only be rearranged, and we did rearranging with our bubbles before. We had positive p and positive 2q, and we could switch those two bubbles around to get a different expression, but they cannot be collected up, okay? So we'll do some more examples which you should copy into your book as well. So here we have a, positive a plus a, and they are like terms, so they can be collected to give 2a. Now positive a and positive b are unlike terms, so they cannot be collected to a single term. They can only be rearranged to give a different expression. Negative 5h and positive h are two like terms, so they can be collected into one single term. And that one single term would be negative 4h, because negative 5h plus 1h is negative 4h. Now positive g and positive 2 are unlike terms. They cannot be collected to one single term like these. They can only be rearranged to give a different expression. Here we have e squared, positive e squared and positive e squared. They are like terms. They have the same variable raised to the same power. They can be collected to 2e squared. Now positive e and positive e squared are unlike terms because even though we have the same variable, they have a different power. So they cannot be collected. They can only be rearranged to give a different expression, and that one is e squared plus e. This next expression, we have 5g to the power of 4, subtract g to the power of 4. And these are like terms because we have the same variable j to the same power 4. And that means they can be collected to one single term. And that one single term will be 4j to the power of 4. The next example is 5j to the power of 4, positive 5j to the power of 4 and negative j to the power of 5. These are unlike terms because of the same variable j but have a different power. So they cannot be collected together, they can only be rearranged to give a different expression, negative j to the power of 5 plus j to the power of 4. Over here we have mn plus 5mn, and these are like terms too. Positive mn has the variable mn, and positive 5mn has the variable mn, and they have the same power too. So they can be collected to give 6mn. Whereas this example, positive mn and negative 5mo have a different variable, so they can't be collected, they can only be rearranged. And that can be rearranged to negative 5mo plus mn. So have a go at these questions now in your book. Pause the video. Okay, so we'll go through the answers to these now. We were trying to collect to one single term if possible. So here are the answers. Positive 3a and positive 2a are like terms, they collect up to positive 5a. Now positive 3a, positive 2b are unlike terms, so it's not possible to collect, it's only possible to rearrange. The same is for positive t and positive t squared, they're unlike terms, so they can't be collected up, it's not possible. Positive 3a and positive 2 are unlike terms, so they cannot be collected to one single term, it's not possible. They can only be rearranged, these three. These two terms are like terms because they have the same variable to the same power, so they can be collected, and that would be negative 2g squared. Again, we have like terms here with mn and negative 5mn, and that collects together to negative 4mn. And then pq plus positive pq and positive 5qp, they look like they're unlike terms, but actually this term should be written alphabetically as 5pq. So they are like terms, it's just this one's written in the wrong order. So these actually can be collected to 6pq. Here's the next key concept, and you should copy this in your book and write down the examples too. So when we collect like terms together into single terms, this is called simplifying expressions by collecting like terms. Okay, so here we have an expression and it has 4 terms in it, and I can show those 4 terms with my bubbles that I learnt to do last lesson. Now you'll notice that I've got some blue bubbles and some red bubbles, and I've decided to do that because I want my blue, but all of my blue bubbles are like terms, so positive 3a, positive 6a, and with the red bubbles I'm showing that they are not like with the blue ones, but the red ones are like terms with each other, negative 5g, positive 7g. So in my answer I'm going to collect together my blue bubbles because they're like terms to positive 9a, and collect together my red bubbles to positive 2q. And that is my simplified expression. It can't be simplified any further because the 9a, the positive 9a and positive 2q are not like. It can only be rearranged. So either of these answers is correct. This next expression has 5 terms, and I'm going to show those terms with my bubbles, and I'm doing different coloured bubbles again to show the like terms. So the blue bubbles contain like terms, positive 5p squared and positive 7p squared. The red bubbles contain like terms, negative 2.5q and negative 2q. And then my green bubble is unlike with all of these, it's just the number positive 5. So that has to go in a different colour as well. So collecting all of those colours together, the blue bubbles collect to 12p squared. The red bubbles collect to negative 4.5q. And the green bubble can't be collected with anything else, so I've just put it here. Now, you can write this in a different way, so you could write negative 4.5q plus 12p squared plus 5, but I'm just going to write it in one way, because there's no need to write all of the options. So, pause the video and have a go at these practice questions, where I want you to simplify these expressions by collecting like terms. Okay, we'll go through the answers to these now. So this first one here, our like terms are the positive 3a and the positive 2a, which collect together to 5a plus 3b. And you could have written 3b plus 5a. Both of these are acceptable answers. In the next one, we can have a plus 7b or 7b plus a. Doesn't matter which way, they're both correct. And our like terms there were the positive 3a and the negative 2a, and the positive 2b and positive 5b. Notice in my answers, when I only have one of a variable, I don't need to write 1a. Okay, just the letter by itself is sufficient. You don't need the 1 there. So if you've drawn that in, you need to go and make a note to yourself to not put the 1 in front of a letter by itself. The next one, it's not possible to simplify because we don't have like terms. In the next one, positive 3a, positive a, positive 8 are all like terms that collect together to 5a, and then the positive 2 cannot be collected, so we get plus 2, and the other option is here. The next one collects together to one single term because we have two like terms. So negative 5g squared plus 3g squared is negative 2g squared. Then again we have three like terms in question 6, and they can all be collected to 29d. And then here we have to be really careful about identifying the like terms. Our like terms would be the positive 2a squared b and positive 6a squared b. They are like terms with each other. They are not like terms with this positive 3.2a squared, because that needs to have, remember, exactly the same variable. It needs to be a squared b to be like terms with the others. So this, in fact, only has two like terms with each other, which is the two I just spoke about. So this simplifies to 8a squared b plus 3.2a squared, that can't be simplified with anything, plus 2a. Again, that can't be simplified and collected with anything. There are 4 more questions here for you to have a go at, so pause the video now and have a go at these. Okay, so the answers to these questions, we should have 21.2 st, because these two terms here are like terms, and then subtract 17tu, because we have two like terms here. In the next one, we've got t squareds, we've got t's, and then we've just got the number 3. So we've got 3 different types of terms here. So we get negative 6t squared from the 12t squared and the negative 18t squared. Take away 5.5t, take away 3. Again, you can write these things in different orders. I'm just giving one option for the ones with 3 terms. This next one, you needed to remember about adding fractions for the next 2. So we have 2 like terms here because they have the same variable t to the same power 1. So they can be collected to one single term. So we end up with 1/2 t. And this is a simplified fraction, isn't it? Because we would get 4 over 8t, but 4 over 8 simplifies to 1/2. So I just simplified my fraction there. And then over here we do need to recap our adding fractions and subtracting fractions. Our like terms would be 1/8 t and positive 2/5 t. So we needed to add 1/8 and 2/5 for the t's. And then for the u's, we've got positive 2/3 u and negative 7/8 u. So we needed to do 2/3 subtract 7/8 to get the coefficient for u. So you should end up with 21 over 40t minus 5 over 24u. You're going to work on the worksheet now, and there's an extension here if you finish early.